that beneficiaries were actively involved in needs identification and project design. And about 71%, or there are about 73%, agreed that they are involved, and the score is 3.7. When it comes now to project identification. Then beneficiaries are actively involved in decision making. Again, the score is 3.71. Beneficiaries contributed materials and financial during implementation, 3.45. Beneficiaries were involved in the commissioning stage and other stages of the project implementation, 3.4. The score was 3.51 out of a maximum of 5. That column means that majority agreed that when it comes now to Isiolo Water Project, they were involved. And when you look at Isiolo, it's not, I'm sorry, Samburu County, in terms of water, it doesn't have many rivers, but you find that in some areas, the water, they're able to access water despite the kind of climate they have. This by the fact that the projects which are there, you find a number of them. They are boreholes which are done by the development partners, and you find that the community, even the leadership, in terms of who is managing these projects, are the community. Then we did the regression to see whether the community involvement on any statistically significant. But before then, we tested the assumptions of the study. The first one was testing on the normality of data, and as you can see from that figure, the data was normally distributed. The multicollinearity, in this case we looked at tolerance and PIF, and both of them were within the range, meaning that there was no multicollinearity. And then from there, we looked at the linearity test, and again, in this case, we used Poisson correlation, and again, there was a relationship between community water and community involvement and performance. The regression analysis, we tested the model, and the model we have R square, which was 0.239. This means that the sustainability of water project in Samburu County is determined by 23.9%, or rather 29.3% of the sustainability of the water project in Samburu County was determined by community involvement, because the R square was 0.39. So 23.9% of the sustainability of those water projects depends on the community involvement. Therefore, just to find out whether our model is fit for further analysis, and as you can see, and the p-value was 0.01, meaning that our model was fit for regression analysis. So we did the regression analysis, and you can see the results here, the coefficient for community involvement, whereby the coefficient was 2.130, and the p-value was 0.29, meaning that the community involvement was statistically significant when it comes in determining the water project. In this case, the model now comes to y is equal to 13.194 plus 2.130 involvement plus error term. So that gives us the model that if you want to see the level of sustainability, the change in terms of sustainability of water projects, if you increase the community involvement by 1, you expect the sustainability to go up by 2.1, which is a very good thing, that we need to involve the community in discussion. As indicated in the analysis, it was very clear that the majority, or rather the score is 3.51, meaning majority agreed that involving the water community have a positive and statistically significant influence on sustainability of water. Now, when it comes now to the other scholars who have also done similar studies on community involvement and water projects, the first one was Katz and Saka in 2018, who indicated that formal community organizations, or rather when you have formal community organizations in such projects, the sustainability will be high. Gretzman, 2015, again looked at the community involvement and indicated that it has attracted an extensive approval, sustainability, and that will contain equity and applicability. So in other words, when there's community involvement, the sustainability of this water project is on the higher level. Again, I indicate that lack of adequate community involvement would impede the success of water schemes. Getich and May 2019 also indicated that really that when you involve the community in water projects, again, there will be sustainability. And that brings the question, when you see in the media people fighting Kiabu, other places, Kirinyaga, and because of these water projects which are coming up, the question that comes, is it that the government is not involving the community from the word good so that they can own up? Because if there's ownership, by the fact that the community is involved, as you have seen from this study, and the studies done by other scholars earlier, it means if we involve the community, all those things, the conflicts that we are seeing in those water projects will be a thing of the past. On the theory, on the part of the theory, findings of this study are well aligned with the network theory, the failure theory, where there is networking among stakeholders has influence on the success of the projects. In conclusion, this study concludes that the community involvement influence the sustainability of community-based water projects in Samburu County in Kenya. And this was attributed by involving the community in the needs identification, where the beneficiary contributes, whether it's material, whether it's whatever kind of contribution, even if it's labor, beneficiary being involved in commissioning of the water and again an activity. And if you go to some of those projects in Samburu, because we interacted with that when the development partner are coming up with the project from the initiation stage, they work with the community. At the end of the day, even when now the development partner exists from the project, the people are actually even trained and given skills on how to run the water project. So it means even after the development partner is no longer on the ground, these people are well equipped projects on their own. So on policy recommendation, we need to have a policy guideline on involvement of community in the country. Even whether it's in Rift Valley, all the projects, can we involve the community from needs identification all the way? In that case, it means you're going to have people who appreciate and own the project. And again, even when the development partner, if these projects are done by donors or whoever is doing, even if the person leaves the ground, at the end of the day, the projects will be able, or rather, the project will be sustainable. What we found in our study on sustainability of water projects in Samburu County, and I say thank you for giving me this opportunity to present my findings to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kiai, for that presentation.
So the host, I think I'm done with the presentation, and I return the ball on your side so that if there are questions, maybe we can address them. Thank you very much.
We'll get back to you for questions maybe after two presentations. Then Dr. Wafula, are you online? Dr. Wafula, please. Dr. Wafula.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, yes.
There's some echo.
So this session is being chaired by Dr. Wafula.
The host, let one mic be on because we are getting an echo, meaning we have several mics on.
Yes.
Let one mic be on.
All right. Please. Okay, Dr. Wafula. Hello.
I think if we can mute it and we, the mic and leave just one person, maybe the session's chair, I believe we'll be able to hear one another, and maybe also we can, I think we can put the questions in the chat. I think that will help instead of having the echo, the questions, maybe when the presenter is presenting, if the question arises among the audience, maybe those who are online can put maybe the question on the chat so that it lies on echo. Thank you.
So through the chair, can I ask some questions?
Hold on a minute.
To continue with the session as the chair, I'm not sure if that was the case.
I had some two questions to the presenter.
We can take your questions, but we can have the other questions being put on the chat and be able to complete in the required time. Questions.
Very well. Thank you. Dr. Kikai. Dr. Kikai, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Thank you so much. Congratulations for the wonderful presentation that you've made, headed towards solving the perennial conflict that we have been having in pastoralist communities, the arid and semi-arid areas. It's a very good study, well studied. So we applaud you for that and your colleague that you are doing the study with. So I have got a few questions that I could seek clarification from you. The number one is in relation to the Freudian theory that you used in your theoretical framework. So I could briefly want to get from you key tenets of the theory, the key tenets, and how the theory informed your study. And at the end, we will also, the theory informed the findings, the relationship between the theory that you had, things that you had later on in your study. And you also had got another second theory, time you had a conceptual framework. Maybe you can also try to explain, use the conceptual framework and the theoretical framework. Now that you had more than one theory. Then on the same conceptual framework, we could I could kindly request you the relationship, the web between the IV, MV, and the DV, independent variables, the modulating variables, and the dependent variables, if they were any. How to those variables? I didn't see exactly how the variables were interacting, the interaction between those. Then lastly was on your reliability when you are testing the tools you used, retest reliability, and more light on the retest reliability, and what was the findings from the test, and what exactly was done to the tools. Thank you so much. Then lastly, you can also tell us kindly what new knowledge is this study bringing. What was your point of intervention from now that you reviewed the literature, the findings from the literature, the findings of the study, the point of intervention, and what is the point of divergence, convergence and divergence? What is that new thing that the study is bringing that has not been there previously? Thank you so much.
Chair, do I respond to this one first? Kindly, your guidance.
Dr. Chair,
maybe I can.
Yeah,
let me just go on. Let me respond to those. Thank you for those questions, and I'm going to respond to them. I start with the first question as I've been put across, and the question was on the Freudian theory, and this theory was developed by as called Friday. Maybe at the end of the day we'll share these the what you call the entire work, so that you can be able to see in 1982. And it comes now to Freudian theory. The tenor of the theory is that it holds that if there is dialogue on any project, if there is dialogue, if there is consensus when you're undertaking a project, the assumption is, when you talk about theory, it's more of an assumption. It gives an assumption that if you do this is the expected result. So in this case, the assumption is, if there is dialogue among the people, among the community, among whatever the project, and you share the information within the community, within that group, the group that is working towards a certain objective, the probability of success is high than if there is no dialogue. So in this case, when it comes now to the theory and my study, remember the independent is community involvement. In that case, it means we have two groups here. There is the people who are coming the project, right? There are people, if there's an NGO, even there's a development partner, that's one party. On the other side, we have now the community. Then the community may be different. If you look at in those areas, when we talk about the community in those pastoralist areas, sometimes we find that we have clans, they group them in clans, in tribes, all those. So it means even among the community, there are different communities. And then on the other side, we have now the development partner. So what you're saying is that if there is dialogue, the communities and among now the communities and the people who are bringing the project, there is expectation. And as we'll talk about sustainability, I said in my presentation that sustainability, it's about the project continuing for foreseeable future. That's success, right? Because if a project starts today and it's there on the next 20 years, that sustainability is a success. Meaning, that's the dialogue, the assumption that if there's that dialogue, the expectation is and for years and years. So that's how the theory informed my findings. Maybe I can connect that question with the other one on how the findings relate with. In my tail end of presentation, the last slide, the last second slide, I indicated that because again, you cannot involve the community as the development partner if there is no dialogue. You know, there are things go hand in hand. If you have to involve the community, it means there is the dialogue. So by default, by the fact that there's community involvement in terms of providing labor, in terms of involving from application, feasibility study, it means a dialogue. That's why you're talking to them, you call them for meetings, you call the leaders, that dialogue. We have seen, by the way, if you go to Samburu County, you find that quite a number of projects are successful by the fact that the process involves the community. You see now that theory, the assumption is that if you involve the community, the expected result is success. That's how now my study connects with the study. Now, the issue of why theory and conception framework. You see, the theory just gives you where you anchor your study. It just gives you a platform. It's a foundation of your study. But you know, when doing a house, you just set the foundation. But of course, then you have to come up with pillars. Foundation, but the pillars. The house is not the foundation. But then you cannot do a house without a pillar. So the theory is where you anchor your study. In this case, forms the foundation of your study. But then you have to come with the pillars, and these pillars are now the dependent variables, are the variables that you are going to on the field to study. The theory gives you, or rather gives you the foundation. But when you go to the field, of course you are testing the theory, but you test the theory using certain variables. And in this case, was the conceptual framework, which was well presented. And if I go back to the conceptual framework so that I can respond to the other question, which was asking the relationship between the dependent variable and the dependent variable, we are saying this. Does community involvement have any influence on sustainability of the water projects? What you're saying is here, if you involve the community, like if you look at what have been happening sometimes in Muranga and Kiambu, and have those project dams that are being done, you find that the community are complaining that we don't want to allow you to use our land to pass the water pipes.